George Carlin said, "Think of how stupid the average person is, and realize half of them are stupider than that." What real-life example have you seen that validates this view? I'm a physician. I doctor specifically. I will tell you that the longer I work, now 15 years, my standard for the average person continues to decline. Case in point, thanks to the awful information filtering out there, I had a patient just last week who read that vitamin D helps you resist a coronavirus infection, while he had also read that you can get more vitamin D by getting more sun. So he wanted to collect as much light as possible with his eyes. As a result, he stared at the sun for a solid 60 seconds and burned holes directly into his retinas, permanently reducing his vision, with no chance of future improvement. This is awful, but it is also hilarious. I am sorry if you had to explain to this person what they had done. That's awful. On a similar note, my in-laws are the sweetest people, but very uneducated. They were babysitting my 1- and 3-year-old during the last solar eclipse, and before I left I asked them to not let the kids look at the eclipse because it can hurt their eyes. I mentioned it because I could see them thinking the eclipse was cool and showing the kids. Instead, they got all serious and said they'd been watching the news and they keep saying how strong the sun will be during the eclipse, so they had already decided to keep the blinds closed all day and not let the kids go near the windows because they were afraid they'd get sunburns inside if the sun was going to be that strong. I used to work in travel, and the amount of people that did not understand the following was staggering. You cannot take a 3 to 7 round-trip night cruise from Miami to Australia. And no, your friend did not just book this. No, there are in fact no ocean-bound cruises leaving from Arizona. You cannot take a cruise from Miami to Hawaii and back in 7 to 10 days. No, the airport is closed due to hurricane/flood/ice, and you cannot demand a flight on a different carrier out of the same airport in the next hour. Also no, you did not just see someone book this. Yes, it is a shorter flight for your friends from East Coast US to the Caribbean than you in Europe, and no, nobody can change that. Yes, I will need your DD 214 to confirm a military rate. No, your word you were in a covered unit will not suffice, and no, I am not disrespecting the military because I cannot simply take your word for it. Yes, if a passport/visa/travel vaccinations are needed for you to travel, you will need it, and no manager cannot override this as it is a government requirement. I have been doing this for 6 years, and no, your friend's neighbor's hairdresser's roommate's cousin's mailman does not know more about this than I do. Oh, just imagining a full-grown adult trying to convince you they were a super secret spy has me cracking up. Oof, good one. Okay, so my favorite was a guy who was planning his honeymoon, but he didn't have a lot of money. He was bummed about the cost of air travel. A friend suggested a train ride might be cheaper. He became frustrated after a few days of trying and complained that he couldn't find any trains going to Hawaii. It still didn't sink in because he had seen pictures of trains in Hawaii. He couldn't grasp that they were shipped there. It got even more surreal after that. I used to work for a chatbot app. Our app would text our users every morning with a greeting in a different language, hola, bonjour, etc. One day we got blown up by a user saying their account was hacked. She said, "My name is Kim Smith, not Kim Konnichiwa. Someone's hacked my account." When we explained that our service has been clearly saying hello to her in other languages every day, and that Konnichiwa is hello in Japanese and her account was fine, she went on a racist rant and said Disney was behind the destruction of America. Yeah, about half the calls I take on a daily basis. People call 911 to ask whether Walmart is open, to report that they didn't get enough mayo on their burger, to complain that cleanup at a fatality wreck is taking too long. All sorts of silly, out-of-touch shit. Granted, there is probably some level of mental illness and or substance abuse present in those calls. But still, I used to manage a retail store that sold teen clothing, so as expected, I primarily had teens working for me. One employee came to the back room while I was on break and asked what I was eating. Somehow the topic turned at how I should have brought chicken for lunch because she wanted chicken. I told her I was vegetarian and therefore don't eat meat. She tells me chicken is not meat, it's poultry and vegetarians can eat poultry. She said at the grocery store the aisles list meat and poultry separately, so they're obviously different. We argued for a couple of minutes before I finally told her to go back to the sales floor. She didn't last at the job long, but damn. When I was in high school, we were reading a short story about what would have happened if the Japanese attacked us back with nuclear weapons after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A girl in my class raised her hand and said something along the lines of, "Why does this matter?" None of it is real anyway. The teacher had to ask her to clarify, but this girl thought World War II and the bombing of Japan were just from a movie and didn't actually happen. The best part is, the girl was half Japanese. Worked at a larger grocery chain whose deli used scales that would show you digitally the weight, so 1 or 1/2 loaves would show 1.50 loaves on the scale, etc. The person I worked had to ask me to come over and tell her how much she had sliced every time she assisted someone for over 4 months. She had passed the written and verbal test they give to verify that you should be able to do this. She didn't seem to have problems reading any other signs or numbers, so I kind of think dyslexia played a part, but man, it was so frustrating trying to do my job and hers. Along the same line, my previous employer used a 100-minute clock for the time clock. This meant if you arrived in time, your punch would read 8:50. The manager of the department assigned timekeeping to another person because he knew he didn't understand it. After several weeks of everyone punching in at 8:50, we all got called in for it. First of all, we were all salaried, except one person, so the time didn't really matter in terms of the law. But it kept the peace, so no one complained. We all got ripped up one side and down the other, and no one was allowed to speak. Not that any of them tried except me. When the manager and the timekeeper finally shut up, I pointed out that the clock runs on 100 minutes, not 60, so therefore we were all on time or early. They stood dumbfounded when they looked at the clock, and it literally showed an analog clock with 100 minutes. So then I took it further to point out that as salaried employees, none of this matters, and that none of us ever left for much, giving them 9 hours instead of 8, and that they walk in at 8:30 and we are already there, so how could we really be arriving at 8:50? They understood and removed the stipulation that salaried employees need to use the time clock. I'm an insurance claims adjuster. If you truly knew how many stupid drivers you're sharing the road with, you'd never drive again. And it because I keep getting this question. I avoid driving whenever possible. I have a car, but I take the bus to from work. I never drive at night. I work in highway safety, can confirm. I can no longer count on 2 hands the number of people I've stopped with in the middle lane of traffic on a freeway, with no bigger problem than a flat tire. When I question them as to why they stop in the middle of a freeway, the typical answer is either the vehicle wouldn't go any further or they don't want to damage their rim. I swear to whatever you want me to swear to. People will put the well-being of the rim on their car above their own safety, and even the safety of their children. I once was working at a Renaissance festival in South Florida. I was just barely 21, had gone down there for the winter to help out a musician friend, and was living a very frugal lifestyle. I don't think I'd even had a debit card at that point, and my cell phone was paid per text at like 10 cents a message. So anyway, I would totally get paid for booth sitting for some artists after the weekend, but by Friday, I was pretty broke. I had about $7 in gold dollar coins, because that's what I like to keep on me at fair to give out as change. I had the remains of the $20 I'd taken in coins, and other than that, I didn't have any other cash. We had a kids' day at fair, where schools bring kids on school trips, and so I needed to grab some food and get back to Deerfield Beach Park. So fully dressed in Renaissance garb, I ran into the Taco Bell. I figured my cash would go the farthest there. I ordered my food, and when I went to pay, the girl behind the counter laughs and goes, no, I need real money. I looked at her confused. These are real money? They are gold Sacagawea dollars. Yeah, we only take US cash here. I need actual money to pay for the food. Now the line behind me is getting antsy, but the girl at the register is getting really bitchy and I'm like, what the fuck do you do when a business won't take your payment? It wasn't like I was trying to pay in nickels. I had $4 worth of food and tried giving her $5 in coins. I'm like, this is all I've got on me. I don't know what to tell you. But it is legal US tender, see right here? And I'm trying to show her the coins, and she's yelling like I'm trying to pay her in Monopoly money. The guy behind me was like, yeah, those are real coins. But I don't think he wanted her ire turned towards him, so he wasn't very forceful. I asked if she could get a manager, and she was like, I ain't gonna waste his time with this bullshit. You either pay in real money or leave, and she's grabbed my bag of food so I can't go anywhere. I take out my wallet, remembering the 2 lucky $2 bills I had carried for years, folded up in the back pocket. I unfolded those, and she takes one look at the $2 bills, and I'm sure you can predict what happened. She blew up. Next thing I know, she's screaming for the staff to call the cops and telling me not to go anywhere because I'm trying to rip her off and pass off all this fake money, and she gone see my ass to jail. Meanwhile, I'm hungry, tired, and now very, very irritated, And that's when a cop car pulls up. They weren't responding to the call. I don't even know if this store had called. I was ready to walk out, nearly in tears, when the two cops come in and all eyes turn to them. There's about 10 people now in line behind me, and everyone turns to look at the cops who very clearly have a "what is going on?" I just stopped to get food look on their faces. That's when the obnoxious registered girl and two coworkers she called over start waving my money around. That was the best part. She took my money and was refusing to give it back or to give me my food. And the cops go to the counter to figure out what she's freaking out over. At this point, the manager heard the commotion and joins the two guys and the registered girl. The three teenager employees are all going on and on about the girl in the costume, trying to give them fake money, trying to rip them off. And the cops very quickly put an end to that. The one cop holds up the two $2 bills and my gold dollar coins, and he tells the staff that both are indeed actual real money. The girl is still protesting, saying, "Yeah, but it's not America money, and we only take America money." When the manager finally realized what happened and apologized, telling the teenagers, who looked to be completely in disbelief, that yes, the coins and bills are both really United States money. The manager offers to personally remake my meal and the cops as well, apologizing for everything. I'm really late at this point, and I didn't really trust them to make my food, even if the manager was being really nice. But the cops said, "I tell you what, I'll come back and get your info while you make our food." How about that? So we accompanied the manager back white. He washed his hands and made our food. The other cop gave me my money back and took my info. As I was finally leaving with my food, the guy behind me jokes with the cop, "I think I'm going to pay with a handful of $half I've got in my car." What do you think? I was so floored that anyone could be so ignorant, and not just ignorant, but completely and utterly unwilling to realize or to recognize that they had made a mistake and were wrong. All she did was double down, insisting we were all wrong and I was just a thief. So frustrating.